Well, what's up again there, guys? Brian here, the Three Topics Gamer, and I'm here to share with you another requested ranking video to share with you guys today. This time I'll be doing a tier list style ranking in order to go over all of the theatrical release Batman films that have come out. Now, this video was requested by another fellow YouTuber, so you know who you are, so I want to thank you for sending in this idea. And originally, I wasn't expecting to do a lot of tier list videos, but you know, since my first one like seriously blew up recently, which as it stands right now it has like well over 20,000 views, and since I don't really have too many games to play or review because they haven't gotten here, and since I'm kind of desperate for video ideas, this is one of the ones that was requested, so here we are to do it. So before I begin, if you are new to the channel or if you're just familiar with my work, please do not forget to give this video a thumbs up and please press the subscribe button because every subscription really does matter to me. So as we jump right into the tier list ranking, as you can see here, all of the theatrical release Batman films are here. However, the only one that isn't here is Justice League, but you know, luckily it's not here because I actually refuse to see Justice League. I still haven't seen it and I don't want to watch it, but all the other ones are here, and I think my ranking may surprise some people in terms of where I place them. So let's get started. So, starting off with the F. Well, there's only one bad movie that I've seen that has Batman in it, and that has to go to Batman v Superman. Now, originally when I saw this film, I did give it like a C-, but this is kind of one of the few rare films that I have seen in which, as time has gone on, I've actually grown to despise it more and more as the years have passed. And yeah, I can openly say I absolutely hate this film to the point where I can say that that is without question the worst thing that I have ever seen Batman in. Across all medias, whether it's movies, animated films, comic books, video games, that is without doubt the worst. Now, Ben Affleck himself was not a bad, he was not a bad Batman in my opinion. I think he did the role just fine. It's just the movie he was in just was so polluted with so much just awfulness that unfortunately it just overwhelmed Batman. Even Batman couldn't salvage that film. So that is why it is at the bottom without question being the worst. Now, as we go into D ranking, believe it or not, I don't actually view any of these films as being D ranked. No, they're all pretty much work for me. So as we go into the C ranking, unfortunately, I'm going to have to put the Adam West one, simply because this one is before my time. This isn't really my particular style of Batman that I personally enjoy. However, that was the Batman that a lot of people enjoyed before my time, and even going back and kind of viewing it for its silliness, I can understand why some people might have thought that was appealing, but I don't take that one too seriously because that one wasn't taken all that seriously. But it did set the standard in a positive way. That's why I can at least respect it and have a little bit of fun with it from time to time. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I do recall actually having a few laughs when I did eventually get around to watch it. So that's why I would place that in the C ranking. Next on the C ranking, let's see, I'm going to actually go with Batman and Robin. Now, a lot of people really hate Batman and Robin, and I'm actually one of the few people that actually enjoys it. It's not only a guilty pleasure, but I openly regard Batman and Robin as being perhaps one of the greatest things that has ever happened to Batman for maybe reasons that people don't quite understand. Because think about it in this light. If Batman and Robin had been successful, had it been a good movie, then what a lot of people don't know is that they were actually going to be working on a follow-up movie to that, which was going to be called, if I remember correctly, Batman Triumphant. So the fact that this movie was as, you know, universally panned as it had been, if that had not happened, we never would have gotten the Nolan trilogy. There would have never been a reason to reboot the franchise. So honestly, I think kind of killing Batman in order to give him a much better rise is well worth it in my opinion. So that is why I don't hate Batman and Robin, but I do think it's a pretty entertaining film in terms of a guilty pleasure standards. But I think that's without question one of the greatest things that has ever happened to Batman when you look at the results. So that's why I would place it in the C ranking. Now as we go to the B ranking, because trust me, I love Batman so much. Just most of Batman content that's come out in theaters has been just wonderful. Now, as I go into B ranking, I'm actually going to put Dark Knight Rises. Now, this is also another movie which my opinion of it has changed over the years. Originally, when I did first see this in theaters, I'd give it an A, but I've kind of dropped it down to like a B. I openly acknowledge that it is without question the worst of the Nolan films. But it's still, I still consider it a great movie. It's just not quite as good as Batman Begins or The Dark Knight. There was and when you're trying to make a follow up to perhaps the greatest comic book movie that had come out at that time, that's a really, really difficult task to do. So I can see that there was some effort, and I could tell that Christopher Nolan probably didn't have his whole heart in it. He just wanted to get it done as quickly as possible. So the movie kind of suffers for that. But overall, I still do enjoy it for what it is. So that's why I would put Dark Knight Rises in B tier. Next movie that a lot of people are going to be very, very surprised about, because a lot of people have hated this film, but I don't quite understand it, because this movie has a lot of major significance, at least for me. And I'm actually going to put Batman Forever. I don't care what any of you folks out there say. I love this movie. This is the first Batman film I ever saw in theaters when this came out in 95. So I was 5 years old at the time. So this is kind of the movie that made me a Batman fan. On top of that, the fact that the movie's main color is green is like half of the reason the color green has remained my favorite color of all time. There's two reasons why the color green is my favorite color. And that is because Tommy the Green Ranger, because I was watching Power Rangers when I was 95, and Batman Forever, because of color green. I have all of the McDonald's glass cups that were coming out that were being promoted for it, which great collection. I thought everything was great. I thought Val Kilmer was a very, very solid Batman. I thought he fit the role pretty well. Jim Carrey is hilarious. I thought Tommy Lee Jones was also hilarious, even though I've heard he really hated this role. And I actually thought Chris O'Donnell actually served as a pretty decent Robin, despite the fact that he was significantly older than Robin should be, and at that point he should be Nightwing. But heck, I enjoyed this film for what it is. I legitimately think it is a good movie. I don't care what any of you guys say. I will defend it till the end of time. And heck, if it wasn't for this movie, I probably would not be a Batman fan. So that is why I'm more than honored to place it in the B ranking. In fact, I would say, standing in terms of live action films, it's probably ranked maybe either number 5 or number 4. Yeah. Next, I'm actually going to put, also in the B tier, I'm actually going to put Batman Returns. This is a clear example of a movie that I believe Tim Burton was given a little bit too much control, and it's a much darker film than the original Batman film that he made. There were a lot of people that made complaints about it, but I at least like how the film looks. I thought, even visually, I think the cinematography for that film is absolutely phenomenal, especially for a 90s film. I thought Michelle Pfeiffer was just absolutely incredible as Catwoman. She's definitely the best character in that film. I thought that Danny DeVito did a pretty solid job as the Penguin. Really disgusting, kind of creepy looking character, but I think that's kind of the point. And I think Michael Keaton's performance as Batman this time around is not quite as good as in the first one, because he's not really... I don't know if it's just me, but I felt like he wasn't really in the film all that much, because when it comes to Batman films, there's a much heavier focus on the villains than the hero. And I think the fact that you had two characters that had like much more unique storylines than what was going on with Batman, I think kind of put Batman in the background. But I still enjoy it for what it is. And I think that the whole thing with the whole inclusion of penguins wanting to blow up building is just kind of one of the craziest plot lines that I've heard in a Batman film to date. But overall, I still really enjoyed it for what it was trying to do. So now we've got 5 more Batman films, and these are all A rankings. I absolutely love all of these films for different reasons, so let's get started. First in the A ranking is Batman Mask of the Phantasm. This movie does not get enough credit. This is an absolutely just incredible Batman film. A lot of people should see it more, especially if you're a Batman fan, because a lot of people don't watch the animated stuff. But the fact that this is an animated film that was actually tied to the very, very popular animated series that was playing when I was a kid made it all the more impressive. A very, very personal story, and it even goes over a really good sense of how Batman became Batman. What inspired Bruce to kind of be who he is. And I really do enjoy that. And I thought Mark Hamill's performance as the Joker is absolutely incredible. And I thought that the mystery behind who the Phantom was an interesting twist that even I didn't see coming at the time. And to this day, it's still, I would say, amongst the animated films, it's probably ranked either 2 or 3 if I were to compare this with all of the animated films. So if you have not seen Mask of the Phantasm, please do. It is an incredible Batman film. Next, I'm going to actually go with Lego Batman. This is a movie that should not have worked, but it ended up working a lot better than even I was expecting. Now, when the Lego movie first came out, Batman was obviously the standout character, so I think making a movie focused around him was interesting. And I absolutely love kind of the dynamic that he has with the Joker and him kind of not wanting to be a lonely character, especially when Robin shows up. For that, what this movie has over, I would say, all of the live action films is a lot of heart. I did get kind of emotional watching this film, and I'm not going to say I got teary-eyed, but I did kind of have the moment where my heart started to swell because you typically don't see a light-hearted story in a Batman film, and they managed to pull it off. And they managed to pull it off with Legos, which that's even more impressive. And I thought that all of the character performances across the board were fine. I even didn't mind the singing. And I'm the kind of person who really hates singing in a movie unless it's like an old-school Disney film. But heck, all of the elements came together. They worked really well. And I think out of all of the Lego films, this one is without question my favorite, which is why it is without question an A-tier movie. Next, I'm going to have to go with the original 1989 Batman. Classic. To this day, it is still a classic. Love this movie. Heck, if I had seen this one first, or heck, if I had been born like maybe a couple or a few years earlier, I might have been. My parents might have shown me the theaters. This was great. Michael Keaton as Batman. He's still considered to many people the best Batman and best Bruce. A lot of people say. Jack Nicholson's Joker, legendary. He set the standard up until another, famous actor came around to take on the role. He was the standard that all villains were compared to. I would even say more so than in the Superman films. I thought the soundtrack with the Prince music, love all those songs, love all those scenes. This movie is just an absolute joy to watch. The only real flaws I could say that this film has is I just wasn't really a big fan of the whole love story with Vicky Vale. I think this movie could have done without it. I mean, I understand why she's there, but I wish they hadn't spent as much time on that plotline as they did. But everything about this film in terms of, the action, the costumes, the cinematography, the settings, the storytellings, the pacing, the character development, this is the standard. I think that every Batman film needs to be compared to at least this one. You're either better than it or not quite as good. And even if you aren't as good as this film, you need to at least be somewhat close to it. And I think that a lot of films have been able to do that, and a lot of them haven't. But to this day, it still remains, without question, my third favorite live-action Batman film of all time. Now, going on to my second favorite Batman film of all time, I gotta go with Batman Begins. Now, as good as the first 1989 Batman film was in terms of setting up the origins, I think this is without question one of the greatest origin stories for a Batman film ever. I'm not quite sure exactly what they're going to be doing with the next live action Batman film. I've heard that it might be an origins, but it might be a Batman that's already kind of set. I don't know yet. But without question, this is without question my favorite Batman origins films of all time. I thought Christian Bale, he is my Batman. No question. Like everyone has their favorite Doctor Who. Everyone has their favorite James Bond. Everyone has their favorite Superman. But everyone has their favorite Batman. Christian Bale is my Batman. As much as Michael Keaton is respected, this is the one that is for me. And I think that his development in terms of how he became Batman and was made in a much more practical, grounded setting is really what makes Batman work for me above every other character. I mean, when you're working with characters that are like super beings, it's kind of hard to relate to them. But because Batman is so human, we feel close to him as a character. And we see that he is a really, really messed up character that actually has really good intentions. And I think this film really, really showed that impressively well. Which is why even to this day, this film continues to stand up. It is absolutely an A-tier movie. It is without question probably one of my favorite origins for any superhero film that's ever been made. And I think that's going to stay that way for a very, very long time. And now that we've gotten all those out of the way, there's only one movie left that I'm sure some of you guys have already known, and without question my favorite Batman film of all time, and probably will stay of all time, is The Dark Knight. Now, my history with this film is very, very strange, because when this film was actually announced and they announced that Heath Ledger was going to play the Joker, I'm going to admit, I was one of the people out there that was totally against it. I was very, very prejudiced at the time. I was like, wait a minute, Heath Ledger, you mean the guy that just played that gay cowboy in Brokeback Mountain? How the hell do you go from gay cowboy to the Joker? This movie was going to be awful. I was going to end up hating it. I was like, oh man, they're going to ruin all of the good things that they did in The Batman Begins. And when I ended up seeing it, which it ended up being the first film I saw when I went to college for the first time, This movie changed my life. This movie was phenomenal. I cannot believe I went into this film thinking it was going to suck, and it ended up being one, not only the greatest comic movie of all time, it ended up really challenging for the rank of my favorite film of all time. Like, up to that point, my favorite film of all time have been Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and this movie was so good it rivals it. In fact, even to this day, those two are dead tied for the number 2 spot. Now, there was a movie that came out a couple years later that would top those two, but as it stands right now, The Dark Knight and Terminator 2 are absolutely deadlocked tied for my number 2 spot, and I don't know which one is the better sequel. I really cannot decide because they are just two incredible films. But in terms of comic book movies, every single comic book movie that I have seen after that has been not even close. None. Not even movies that I think are absolutely incredible, like Captain America Winter Soldier, which that too is absolutely an A-tier movie. But that is nothing compared to The Dark Knight. Everything about that film was incredible. The action scenes were incredible. Christian Bale's Batman was much more improved. He actually wears my favorite suit of any live-action Batman. Heath Ledger's Joker was the stand-up performance. Aaron Eckhart's performance as Harvey Dent was absolutely incredible. There's just no flaws. I think the only flaw that a lot of people seem to kind of bring up is the fact that for whatever reason, I didn't notice this in Batman Begins, but I only noticed it at a certain point in this film, is Christian Bale's Batman voice. It sounds like he has throat cancer, but strangely enough, I didn't notice his messed up Batman voice until after the interrogation scene. It's weird. Like, every time I watch it, his Batman voice sounds fine, but like after the interrogation scene, now it's so much noticeable and it kind of bothers me. Was that is it just me that feels that way, or do the rest of you guys have an issue with that? But that's just me. But again, there's just so many reasons. I mean, there could be like a top 10 reasons why The Dark Knight will always remain my favorite comic book movie of all time. Which I don't know if that'll be an idea that some people would want. But I think that The Dark Knight changed the game in such a way that even now a lot of DC comic movies are trying to replicate, and they just can't seem to do it. I know that Man of Steel tried to do it, and I think succeeded to some point in terms of taking a character and making it much more grounded. But it's very difficult for me to believe that we're going to see another film that's going to be able to have the kind of impact that this film has. This film is it's like 12 years old, and we are still talking about it to this day. So I think that kind of shows you why, out of any Batman film, that one is an absolute masterpiece. The Batman from 1989, that might be a classic, but The Dark Knight is an absolute masterpiece, and that is why I would rank it as number 1 in my favorite Batman film of all time. So that pretty much does it for my tier list ranking of all of the theatrical Batman films. Now that you guys have seen my list, I would be more than happy for you to share how you guys would rank all of these theatrical Batman films in the comments down below. Like always, I want to thank all of you guys for watching. You're awesome, and stay tuned because I will be uploading a lot more content over the next couple of days because I've got a lot of time on my hands, so I will be uploading a lot of things. So, like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I'll see you next time.